I'm Kelsey from RoughAndTumbleFarmhouse.com, and today I'm going to share with you my best tips for hand milking a cow. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you either really want a milk cow, you're about to get a milk cow, or you already have a milk cow and milking maybe isn't going that great. Which, if that's the case, please do not beat yourself up. Milking a cow is a learned skill, a learned art, and it's not something you're just born knowing how to do. So if you're having some trouble, don't feel bad. Hopefully this video can help you out a little bit. Before I even bring my cow in here to show you a few things, let's talk through some stuff that we can go over before I have the cow here, which really kind of brings up the first point, which is when it comes time for milking, don't dink around. Be purposeful and be repetitive, same thing every single time. So one of the important things to talk about in terms of having a successful milking experience is the environment in which you milk your cow. So first things first is having your cow good and secured. So if you don't know how to do a secure livestock knot, make sure you learn how to do one. Just a good safety release knot is typically what I use every time. I apologize, the barn sparrows in here are absolutely obnoxious. Make sure that you have it tied well and secure. Another thing is, you can see here off to my side, this is where the cow's going to be in just a little bit, is there is a gate that's right here. So she has that along one side and then I'm on the other side. So I didn't always have this gate here, and when I didn't, and I milked here just kind of tied to a post, she could swing her whole butt all the way over there. And so, which I mean is workable, but it's a total pain because you got to grab your stool and you kind of like, chase after your cow. So it's good to have something solid on one side, have them tied well, then that way they're not going to be able to move around too much on you, which is a total pain and a sure way to lose a bucket pretty quick. Also, making sure that you have a kind of distraction-free, comfortable environment is important. I have a toddler. She is never down here with me when I milk. I always get up early before my husband has to leave for work, or I do things after she goes to bed because she is just too loud, too wild, too crazy, and the cow doesn't appreciate it. So I have found too with milking cows that a lot of times just having one person who's doing the milking, or maybe two people who do the milking, and having a as quiet as can be situation for them is best. I even found, kind of funny enough, that my cow is sensitive to different voices. I think it's male, female, or she maybe just doesn't like this one podcaster, because I have found that I like listening to Jill Winger on the Prairie Homestead, her podcast, and my cow's perfectly fine when I listen to that podcast. But then, for whatever reason, she doesn't like the Homesteady podcast. If you listen to that one at all or watch their channel. So I was listening to Jill Winger's podcast. It ended. It automatically rolled over to an episode of Homesteady I was listening to. And as soon as Ost started talking, he's one of the hosts, him and his wife, she was just cranky. She started shuffling, she started stomping. I didn't put two and two together until later. I was trying to just listen to an episode of Homesteady just right out of the gate, and she was just not behaving well. And so I was just like, well, let's see. And I turned it off, and she was fine. So I don't know if it's that she doesn't like kind of male voices. Sometimes dogs will prefer males or females, and maybe cows are the same way, or she just doesn't like that guy. I don't know. I think he's fine and great, but she really doesn't like it. So little things like that can really be distracting. So I tried having at one point our barn door open because I thought it'd be nice to have the breeze coming in. That was an absolute no-go. Every time a chicken would walk by, she'd kind of, startle a little bit. So just having a nice, calm, predictable environment for them is huge. Next thing I will talk about quick before we bring our cow in is potentially using tools in terms of helping with milking. I use, when I'm training a new milk cow and also kind of refreshing my milk cow as to how to be a good milk cow, we'll use hobbles. These are hobbles. I know basically they're shackles, let's be real, but they're a lot friendlier. The cow only wears them while you are milking, and they really are a great kind of seat belt, I think of, in terms of milking a cow. So it's just a straight piece of material here, and then there's loops on each side that go around each of their back legs. So then that way they only have this much kind of room to move. So this does not prevent them from kicking at all. You can still definitely lose buckets when using hobbles. But what they do prevent is the cow from doing more kind of dangerous kicks towards you, because we're working with an animal that can be well over 1,000 pounds, and their kicks can seriously hurt you, or honestly, a cow kick hit at the right spot can kill you. So hobbles are something, especially if you have a brand new cow that you're training to milk, I think are honestly essential. They have padding on the area that goes around their legs. You put them snug but not super tight, so seriously, it does not hurt them at all, and it's a really great safety precaution. So as I said, I typically use these just during training, or when, with Juneberry here, she's always pretty cranky the first couple of weeks when we're getting back into milking every year. But I'm currently pregnant, and I did milk Juneberry when I was pregnant with my daughter. I did milk her without hobbles pretty much the whole time, but for whatever reason this time I'm just a little more leery about keeping everything safe and keeping me safe. So I will probably use these the entire time we're milking. So they aren't very expensive. I can't remember for sure, somewhere between like $12 and $30 for one of these things, and you can buy them online. If I lost this, I would replace it immediately. A lot of times they don't have them just in your local fleet supply stores. It is something you're going to have to buy special. So I really recommend getting these hobbles again. And they won't like them at first. They'll be kind of stompy about it. And the first time once you get them on, it's kind of a good thing to just get out of the way and let them get used to it, because they'll try and kick it off their legs, which is sort of a dangerous time to be right under your cow. But eventually they do get used to them. And they can still kind of kick forward, but those big, mean, awful, scary side kicks, they can't do anymore. So these are just, like I said, a really good kind of seat belt to have for extra precaution when you're milking your cow. Last thing I'm going to say before I bring in our cow is to make sure that you are consistent. Cows really like to know what to expect. So with Juneberry, you'll see here in a bit, I bring her in. She has a big bowl of grain waiting. So I typically don't even lead her in. I just call for her and open the door, and she comes barreling in faster than I can trot with her. She comes in, she eats her grain, I brush her, I put on the hobbles, and then we get down to milking. You'll also see this time I'm just using, I need to find it, I'm using just like a 5-gallon plastic bucket to milk. Typically I'm milking into a stainless steel bucket, everything's sanitized, but I'm completely out of milk jars right now, so I'm just going to be milking into a plastic pail, and the pig gets a really nice dinner tonight. One last thing I will say before I get the cow in here is, when you have a cow who's either a new mom or is just a really particular mom, having the calf nearby in a way that she's comfortable with is important. So with Juneberry, she doesn't even like the calf to be kind of in this little stall pen over here. She prefers it if her calf is just kind of out here with her. She's a lot more chill, so there's a decent chance that this camera's going to get knocked over a couple of times, because the calf is just going to be sort of wandering around, and she's very curious and way braver than I'd like her to be. So that's definitely a potential hazard just to keep in mind if the camera gets wonky all of a sudden. So let's go get our cow, and I will show you some tips for when you are actually milking. One of the first things you want to talk about when it comes to sorry, the calf is like right here. When it comes to milking is bucket etiquette. So again, this should be a metal bucket, but it's just a plastic one. So try to be quiet with your bucket. Don't be clanging it around. Sometimes cows can be sensitive to those first few squirts of milk into the bottom of the bucket, so shooting the milk kind of on the side so it's more quiet as it goes in can be helpful. Another tip is to make sure you have the handle facing away from their legs, because they might miss kicking the bucket, but they can snag just the handle. So that's another kind of tip you want to have. When it comes time to actually milk, I give her kind of usually just like a little push on the udder so she knows I'm in the neighborhood. And then you want to make sure you milk with purpose. You don't want to go under there and kind of like flit around with your hands a little bit or dink around, because they're not going to appreciate that. Cows really do not like it if you are just kind of really light. If you've ever seen a calf nurse, or if you're a nursing mom yourself, you know that there is a lot of suction and a lot of pressure going on those teats. So really, unless you're reaching under there and just like yanking on them, you probably want to be more firm than you might be being. So the odds are good here that I probably will get my bucket kicked over, just because I'm really not paying the sort of attention that I should be. But something that I want to kind of point out here that you maybe can see is something that's really helpful in terms of not losing your bucket, is paying attention to how your cow is standing. So as you can see, this leg closest to me here, she doesn't have her weight on that leg. So if she's going to kick, more likely than not, she's going to kick with that leg. And she doesn't have to change her weights at all. She can just flick that foot out and kick really quickly. So I just kind of know it's something you'll want to pay attention to when you're kind of new at milking. When you're kind of new at milking, you'll want to pay attention to that, because like you saw there, she kicked with this leg that was closest to me. She didn't have any weight on it. She didn't have to adjust at all. She just went for the kick. Now, if her weight was on her, let's say she wanted to kick with her opposite foot, she would have to shift her weight over to her right foot and then kick with her left. That's not to say she can't do that pretty easily, but that means her whole body's going to have to shift. So just paying attention to that is important. There, when I let go of her teat, I kind of grazed one of her other teats with my fingers, and it felt funky. It felt like a fly, or it felt like a branch, or some sort of little annoyance, and she didn't like it. So that's what I mean about being purposeful when you reach under, is don't be like real timid and flitty because they don't like how that feels. So again, being purposeful, having sort of a teat pattern, if that makes sense. Juneberry, for example, she prefers it if I start with her front right teat, then that teat, and then do her back teats. And she doesn't like me to milk both of them at the same time to begin with. She likes me to start with one, then do the other by itself, and then do both of them together. I don't know why that's how she likes to be milked, but it is. So here you just saw me move her a little by pressing right here, kind of in this sort of connection area. And she's actually standing really nice for milking right now. So I might actually... Oh. So if you do need to move your cow, that's one spot you can press, and I'll show you here in a minute another spot you can apply pressure to adjust them. Trying to just push on their leg is going to get you absolutely nowhere, possibly kicked. So that's typically the route that I would go if I was trying to get my cow to move. Another tip is if you need to block a kick, which you'll get kind of ninja-like about, is typically I'll put my forearm just right up here in this part of her leg. And then that way you're not in danger of getting nailed with a hoof. And once she feels that resistance right there, she typically, I gotta readjust her a little. Once she feels that resistance, she'll typically kind of stop the kick, and your arm actually will prevent her from kind of continuing the kick forward. Another thing you want to be aware of when you're milking is your hand positioning. There are certain grips that are easier for me to milk in that position, but Juneberry does not like them. So paying attention to the placement of your hands is big. Sometimes trying a different hand. Oddly enough, I find that I'm a much better milker with my left hand than with my right. I don't know why, but it just seems to naturally be able to grip a lot better and know the right angles to get the most amount of milk out. So keeping that in mind, if you're gonna try a different grip, you know, if something's currently working, you know, maybe you're doing the full hand thing and you want to change to just kind of a little bit, and you want to change to just sort of like your fingertips. Like Juneberry, her back teats are super small, so it's this maneuver, which just about kills your hands eventually. So I do kind of switch to like this on this back right teat, which she doesn't like as much, but I literally can't keep milking by doing just this sort of a thing. So I will switch to that position, but I've discovered she will not tolerate it if, you know, she will not tolerate it early in milking when she's really full, but later, once it's kind of a little bit easier to get the milk out, she's better about it. And I also noticed that if I'm gonna switch grips, it's good to kind of milk, take a second, you know, stretch my hands out, and then start with the new grip. Don't be milking like this and then switch to milking like this. That will throw them off too, or at least with Juneberry. And that's something I should say, is that these are all things that are specific to the cows that I have milked and noticed. Your own cows are going to be a whole different ballgame potentially, so, you know, take all this with a grain of salt, try some stuff. If it doesn't work for you, try something different. The thing you want to look for, pay attention to with your cow is sort of their frame of mind and how they are. We're milking a lot later than usual right now, so typically Juneberry, once she kind of chills out, she'll start to chew her cud, which she's not going to do here, but once she's chewing her cud, I know we're kind of in the home stretch. Right now I'll show you what she looks like. So here's June, and here's Butterscotch. Here, do you want to get a good shot in? There you go. So June right now, she isn't really bothered. Her ears aren't. If her ears were kind of alert and she seemed like worried or tense, that would be a different situation. But like I said, once they start chewing their cud, you know you are golden. Doesn't mean they still won't kick at a fly or a situation or something, but typically it means that they are feeling relaxed and they're fine with the situation. All right, so those are some of my top tips for hand milking a cow. Hopefully some of those things were helpful for you. If you have any questions about something specifically that you're having trouble with, with your cows. Please feel free to comment below. I would be happy to answer any questions as best as I can to try and help. Because hand milking is not for the faint of heart, but it can be really rewarding and really enjoyable, and sometimes it's really the only option you have in terms of milking your cow. So I'm happy to be a resource to anyone that has questions. Always check the blog. We have new posts twice a week, and here on the YouTube channel we have a new video every single week about farming, family food, and fortitude here at our Rough and Tumble farmhouse.